Well, welcome to the Arizona Statewide Summit on Entrepreneurship and Economic Development. My name is Corey Pruitt. I'm the faculty chair of the Communication Department here at Rio Salado College, and luckily enough, I'm going to be your MC for today as well. Well, to get us started, I'd like to bring up two college presidents who are co-hosting today's event, Dr. Chris Bustamante and Dr. Sherry Olson. Dr. Chris Bustamante serves as president of Rio Salado College, which is one of the Maricopa community colleges located in metropolitan Phoenix. And Rio Salado serves more than 65,000 students, with 40,000 students online. He's a well-known advocate for increasing access to higher education, degree completion, and of course forging transformational partnerships with businesses, government, and other educational providers. Dr. Sherry Olson is the president of South Mountain Community College, and she has 30 years of experience as an educator, a coach, a consultant, and administrator in higher education. From 2010 to 2011, she served as the interim president at Anoka Technical College, and prior to this assignment, she worked as the system director for the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act for Minnesota State colleges and universities. Dr. Olson is a first-generation student and a college student, and knows the value of education firsthand. We'll first hear from Dr. Bustamante, then we'll hear from Dr. Sherry Olson, who will then introduce Dr. Maria Harper-Marinick. So, Dr. Chris Bustamante, please welcome.
Good morning. It's great to welcome you to Rio Salado on a beautiful fall day. Thank you all for coming. We have representation, I understand, from all over the state of Arizona. And Dr. Sherry Olson and I have been looking forward to this day. I know the NACCE folks as well for a very long time in terms of spurring more entrepreneurial type programming here in Arizona. So thank you very much. I'm going to be remiss if I don't thank a few people and introduce a few people before we get started. I want to thank some of the Rio team that really helped to put this together and to coordinate it. Without their assistance and coordination, it wouldn't have been possible. Mr. Otis White, who's chair of our faculty chair for business, Michael Cruza, Delyn Bodine, and several of our auxiliary services staff. So would you all please stand and be recognized? Also, we have a few presidents in the room that I want to recognize as well. Some of my colleagues here in the Maricopa system, Dr. Linda Lujan, who is president of Chandler Gilbert Community College. We have Dr. Stephen Gonzalez, president of Gateway Community College. We'll be at his place this evening at the incubator for the reception. We also I believe, have Dr. Sean Pan. Is Dr. Sean Pan in the audience? President of Mesa Community College. And I know we'll have Dr. Jan Gaylor with us a little later from the president of Scottsdale Community College. You'll be hearing from Sherry Olson, the president of South Mountain Community College, in a few moments. We also have a couple of our governing board members from the Maricopa Community College District. Mr. Doyle Burke, who is president of our governing board. Would you please stand and be recognized? Also, Mr. Dana Sarr, a member of our governing board, incoming president of the board. Also, Dr. Maria Harper-Marinick, who will be introduced in a few minutes, is the provost and executive vice chancellor of the Maricopa system. Would you please stand and be recognized? And also, Heather Van Sickle, the president and CEO of NACCE, the National Association of Community College Entrepreneurship. Would you please stand and be recognized? Without NACCE, of course, this wouldn't have been possible. They're doing many of these summits across the country, and it's great to always partner with Heather and her team. Many of her team members you'll meet in a few minutes. And also the SBDC network members, led by Janice Washington. Janice, would you please stand and be recognized as well? And we also have Alan Stevens, who is the USDA Director of Rural Economic Development and a former leader in the Arizona legislature in Arizona, and I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that he is here. Thank you, Alan, for being here. Okay, I think that's the introductions. This summit, of course, is a working session to help us align our efforts for business startup and growth, and community colleges nationwide are taking on new roles of leadership of entrepreneur growth and workforce development in our communities. And this summit gives us really the opportunity to work together to build a stronger presence of entrepreneurial programming here in Arizona. Today's agenda is designed to support the development and expansion of the entrepreneurial initiatives at your college and at your districts throughout the state. Today we will hear panel discussions and interesting presentations which outline the importance of the community colleges in economic development as well as concrete strategies for building entrepreneurial programs. These discussions will be based on the Virtual Incubator Network, or the VIN Toolkit, which was developed by a collaboration of 10 community colleges from across the nation, including Rio Salado College, and funded by the Mott Foundation, and all colleges will receive a copy of the VIN Toolkit. This is the first of many discussions that will need to occur. We have the right people in the right place at the right time who can launch and support these entrepreneurial initiatives in order to positively impact the economy of our state. So definitely now is our time. So thank you again very much for coming today and for being an important part of this conversation. I noticed that I had forgotten to introduce another president, and I wanted to acknowledge Dr. Johnson Bia from Pima Community College, the Desert Vista campus president. I think that's pronounced Bia, is that correct? Okay, thank you so much for being here. Okay, it's my pleasure now to invite Dr. Sherry Olson to the podium to share a few of her own remarks. Thank you again for being here.
Well, I'd like to also welcome you to today's event. Chris and I have, I think it's been about a year in the making to make this day possible. I just want to acknowledge my colleagues from my college. I didn't know all of these people were going to be here today. I thought a few of them. I knew Bruce was going to be here. But we have a table from South Mountain Community College, and because I'm at the podium, I have the privilege of introducing them. I support entrepreneurship, but they're really the people that are making it happen in new and different ways every day, and you'll get to learn from Bruce during our panel what's going on at South Mountain. But I have some brilliant people working at the college, and I just want to acknowledge them and thank them for being here, as well as all of you. On behalf of Chris and I, we would like to thank the sponsors for our summit, and they're found up on the wall over here. They include CenturyLink, SCF Arizona, APS, HP Life, the Small Business Development Center Network, and first and foremost, NACCE, the National Association for Community College Entrepreneurship. Thank you, Heather, for your support. It's because of their generous support that we are able to be gathered here today. And at this time, I want to invite a very special person to our district to the podium, Dr. Maria Harper-Marinick. She's our Executive Vice Chancellor and Provost for the Maricopa County Community College District. Dr. Harper-Marinick provides oversight for all areas within academic and student affairs, institutional effectiveness and research, university relations and transfer, grant development, high school to college pathway programs, workforce development, and small business development. As a strong advocate for education, Dr. Harper-Marinick serves on many national and local boards and councils. She has been the recipient of many awards and recognitions. Most recently, she received the 2012 Victoria Foundation's Alfredo de los Santos Service in Higher Education Award and the 2013 Arizona Diamondbacks Hispanic Community Leadership Award. She was also selected as one of the 25 most influential Hispanic business leaders in Arizona by the Arizona Business Magazine and one of the Valley's most admired leaders by the Phoenix Business Journal. We are fortunate to have her here with us today, so please help me welcome Dr. Maria Harper-Marinick to the podium.
Good morning, everyone. You would think with that introduction that I'm actually giving the keynote. And all I'm doing is providing a welcomes, but I do appreciate the generosity and the opportunity to be here. It's also glad to be among friends. So I wasn't sure who was supposed to be here, actually, when I walked in this morning. And then I realized I'm actually among friends because I think I know almost everyone in the room. So thank you to our my colleagues, Chris and Sherry, for thinking of this, for having the vision for the convening, and then NACCE for partnering with us and believing in the work that we do. And to all of you for taking the time to be here. We know that the good work only happens through collaboration and conversations and opportunities like this one for all of the great minds to come together. I was thinking this morning, what better place that community colleges to promote entrepreneurship, because I think that that's what we're known for. We're known for being the quick thinkers and the innovators. And I was thinking that should be actually an explicit part of our mission. Governing board members who are here, thank you for being here. And I bring greetings also on behalf of Dr. Glasper, our chancellor, who couldn't be here this morning. So I think we all know, because we're all from Arizona, that we're known, our state is known as a great supporter of innovation, entrepreneurship, and small businesses. And we know that that's something that stays with us even when the economy is not as robust as we would like to see it. That support for small businesses doesn't go away, and we play a big part in that. And we know the rest of the nation is paying attention to the good work we do, and that's why we're able to partner with NACCE. And I believe we're hosting the national conference next year, right? Yay! So thank you for allowing us that opportunity too. So the work that we're talking about today here aligns very well with the mission of the Maricopa Community Colleges. All of the work that we do through our Center for Workforce Development, and I know you're going to hear, I think, later from Randy Kimmons, who's our district director, and also the work that we're now doing through the Maricopa Corporate College. How many of you know about the Maricopa Corporate College? Non-Maricopans, do you know about that? I saw the hands and I recognized the faces. So for those of you who are not part of Maricopa, our latest institution is the Maricopa Corporate College, which will be the non-credit arm of our system. And I know that Susie, there you are, Susie Pulido is here from Corporate College, and I acknowledge her, and Dr. Jean Giovannini, who couldn't be here today, who is the president of the Corporate College. But that's also important work that we do in a partnership with many businesses in the area. And I think that's the importance of this work, is that we are very good as institutions forming partnerships with the business and industry in the area, and then recruiting those people who have great ideas and need just that kind of right level of support to get started as businesses. So the other hat I wear is, and some of you actually know this, Maricopa is the host institution for the Arizona Small Business Development Network. And I am the administrator of the network. And so for those of you who are from other community colleges and you have SBDCs, I'm your other boss. So I want to acknowledge the work that we do through SBDC, because it is critical work for the state and for the small businesses. And as you know, all of the services are free to our small business owners. And I thank you to Janice and all of the people, all of the SBDCs in our state. The other initiative that we have through the network is I need to read it because I can never remember. But we partner with the Department of Defense since 2011 to host the Arizona Procurement Technical Assistance Center. We call it the AZ-PTAC. And the PTAC helps businesses of all sizes obtain and successfully execute government contracts. So I think I speak on behalf of all of us when I say we are proud and pleased that we were selected as a state to host the PTAC initiative. So I will encourage all of us in this room today to use the time wisely and engage in some meaningful conversations, learn from all of the speakers that are here. And because it's supposed to be a place and time to incubate ideas, I hope that by the end of the day, there are some new innovations brewing in someone's head that will help our colleges and all of our institutions help the state of Arizona and promote entrepreneurship. So once again, I appreciate the partnership that we have with NACCE and all of our colleges and everyone else from the state. And I wish all of us a very productive day. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Dr. Harper-Marinick and Dr. Olson and Dr. Bustamante. We'll now have the pleasure of hearing from three thought leaders in the field of entrepreneurship, and I'd like to invite them to the stage at this time. They will actually share the keynote remarks for the topic, Why Community Colleges Must Play a Significant Role in Entrepreneurship in the Next Decade, and the role of community colleges in becoming entrepreneurial themselves. So by way of introduction, Heather Van Sickle is the president and CEO of the National Association of Community College Entrepreneurs, and she leads an association representing community colleges that are passionate about creating economic vitality through entrepreneurship in their local communities. Heather tirelessly works to ensure entrepreneurship is accessible to anyone who chooses to take it on. Tim Matan is the lead center associate director for Los Angeles Regional SBDC Network. And for the past 10 years, Tim has been in and around entrepreneurship education and economic development. He successfully created and ran an entrepreneurship center and business incubation, as well as developed and implemented statewide entrepreneurship curriculum for the state of Nebraska. And Tim Putnam is the Associate Director for the John Papajohn Entrepreneurial Center for North Iowa Area Community College. Tim has led presentations and workshops on entrepreneurial education, creating entrepreneurial communities, creating a community angel seed fund, and small business development at both state and national conferences. Tim is currently the NACCE Fellow for Community Outreach as well. Let's welcome Heather, Tim, and Tim to the summit.
Thank you, Corey. So I just wanted to echo Dr. Harper-Marinick's comment. Our national conference, NACCE's annual conference, our 12th one, will be here next year, actually not in Tempe, but in Phoenix at the Arizona Grand. It'll be October 12th through 15th, 2014. So we'll look forward to seeing all of you there. Over the course of the year, we'll be talking to many of you about how we can engage you and really bring the flavors and some of the things that you want from Arizona. Yeah, does it sound a little funny?
No, we need this.
Oh, the sound's okay though? Okay, it's like a little echoey to me. Okay, so thank you also Dr. Bustamante, Dr. Olson as well, Otis, Mike, the whole team. I know you guys have been working very hard behind the scenes to make this happen, so we appreciate all that. This year, we've done a variety of summits around the country, so we were able to do one in Minnesota, we were able to do one in North Carolina, and then here next week we're going to be in Miami. So this was our first pass as a national organization to try to do some things regionally because we know everything happens locally. So we didn't want to have people to wait for an annual conference to be able to get together, and we're hoping that this activity, this conference in this area, will be able to continue to spur meeting together when we're not around, and then hopefully we can convene again when we're back next year and learn some of the things that you've been able to accomplish from some of the ideas that you have as takeaways today. So to begin the conversation, the purpose of this opening session is really to talk about why community colleges must play an important role in spurring entrepreneurship in your communities. And then also we're going to get into some of the how. So I'm going to introduce, I guess they already introduced you, but so maybe we'll skip.
Well, we'll do it again.
Okay, so I'll allow them to introduce themselves. I'm going to then take it back. I'm going to give you a broad overview of what NACCE's learned over the last decade or so, and then we'll get specifically into their colleges. So, Tim Matan, could you start with the introduction?
Yes, hi. I'm Tim Matan, and they said I am the Associate Director for Los Angeles SBDC Network. That's a brand new position for me. I've been down there since August. So I moved from Nebraska to Long Beach. In a move, actually, we met during the Vin project. So I was able to work with the people for several years before I actually went to work for them. So most of the comments you'll hear me talk about today is about Nebraska and everything that we did back there, which I'm finding a lot of similarities, even though I'm in a very large urban area. I'm finding a lot of similarities in the entrepreneurial efforts, even from our rural to the urban. So hopefully I can help you out with that.
And I'm Tim Putnam, Associate Director of the NIACCE John Papa John Entrepreneurship Center. I've been at the center since 2000. Started when a very, very basic start to our program, and looking forward to sharing, how we've grown that program and how we do community outreach in North Iowa. North Iowa is a very rural area. In our 9-county area, we have 130,000 people. That's probably like a square mile around here, I think. So, again, we want to commend Chris, you guys, on your marketing last night. We were at the restaurant, and we asked where Rio Salado, where the college was at, and our waitress Martha says, "I thought that was online." So, so I think they actually do have buildings. So we're looking forward to sharing our stories here today. And Otis, thanks for having us here today.
The other thing you need to know is that we have known Heather since the very beginning of NACCE. Tim and I have attended every single NACCE conference, and so we've been involved quite a bit. So we actually have a rapport up here that may not translate that well out there. So just so you know.
And we are called the Tims. So
The Tims.
Excellent. So they've actually seen not only the growth of NACCE as an organization, but really the movement, as all of you are part of entrepreneurship at the community college, and such a critical part. So let me just start with the why, which is really just one slide. So this was an excerpt from the former CEO of the Kauffman Foundation about the importance of entrepreneurship. So in essence, it's just that by creating a vibrant ecosystem, which the community colleges are a critical part of, that's conducive to entrepreneurial ventures, it's essential for creating that foundation for job creation in your community. And I figured that we don't have to go too much into the why because you're all here. So the importance of entrepreneurship, and that will come through the conversations today. What I want to talk about a little bit is the how. So what we learned in our journey is that it's so important to have entrepreneurship integrated at all levels of your college. So you need individuals sort of from the bottom up, the frontline people, faculty, staff engaged. You need the support from the leadership so that they can allow space for different innovations and activities to happen. And then you also need sort of that middle out level. So the connector, sometimes maybe the dean level between the leadership and also some of the faculty. So it's a job at the college for the leadership and for all of you to really set that tone and that culture. And it's kind of like the chicken and the egg a little bit, because when we first started, we really focused on it was all about the students and all about the community and providing opportunities to create jobs out of whatever they were learning. And we learned pretty quickly that if you didn't have an institution that supported that, then you didn't really get very far. You weren't able to make the strategic partnerships in the community that you needed to make. You weren't able to provide opportunities like you have right now at Gateway with the incubator and tying all the academic programming into something that's very tangible. So what we did as part of solving this is, first of all, when we also started, a lot of people thought, to be an entrepreneur, to be an entrepreneurial college, you have to be visionary and you have to have these big ideas and you have to have lots of money. So we wanted to begin to decode that process for the college. And so this is part of what we wanted to share with you, is we started 2 years ago, we created this pledge, and there's 5 steps in here. And what these were is really a reflection of what we were seeing effective colleges do to not only start, but also to sustain any activity in entrepreneurship. So I won't read them through. You can see them. They're on our website. We'll be sharing these slides. But in essence, it starts with your core team. So you need internal and then also going out externally. And you need to have entrepreneurs engaged in that process. The other thing that is kept standing out to us is oftentimes from the community college space, probably doesn't happen in Arizona, but some other community colleges, they talk about what they don't have and focus almost so much on that they miss opportunities. They miss what they do have. So what do you have? What resources do you have? What assets do you have? Who's on your faculty? What are students? What type of students do you have? What type of community do you have? So being able to really focus on that and what you have and to be able to leverage that is a really critical piece. So we have over 200 community college presidents that have signed on. We are all excited about this. And then we realize, okay, so now we need to put this into action. It's not, so there's sort of this awareness about what needs to happen, but then where do we go from there? So the interesting thing that we saw is, I guess, the question of the disconnect rather between entrepreneurship education and what was actually happening for entrepreneurs in the community. So the question became, is entrepreneurship education actually keeping up with entrepreneurs? Especially because of technology flattening the world. You didn't need as much capital to start. The lean startup, some of this stuff you may have talked about, failing fast. All of this was happening outside the world of education, and education was much more traditional and a little bit slower in approach. So I know Otis will be getting into some of this, but we were able to uncover some of the work from individuals such as Sarah Sarasvathy. We have a journal that's actually coming out for anyone that's a NACCE member. You'll get it. Dana, you probably heard her work at the conference. But what's interesting is instead of having to be visionary, have all these ideas, and have all this money, what she did was start to decode the process. So the beginning part of that was just to start with what you have. So who are you? What do you know? Who do you know? Just start with that. You don't even have to have the big idea. You just get the people in the room. You can almost do it by table. Say, okay, what skills do we have? That's actually how entrepreneurs start. And that's also how the college can start. So that process, the entrepreneurial method, can really be used by teaching it in the classroom to students and also for the college itself and how they can actually operate. So I promised Otis that I would not go in detail through these because he will be talking about these. But I'm just going to scroll through really quickly just to whet your appetite. The next thing is being able to say, instead of if we do these things, all these amazing things could happen, say, if we do this, what are we willing to lose? Because then if we lose it, it's okay. If we are successful, then great, and we can continue on from there. So it's a little bit of a tweak on how we look at that. The next one is on the crazy quilt. And again, I'm not going to go into a lot of these in detail because Otis will be. The next one is how do you leverage contingencies? Most people understand like you make lemonade out of lemons. It's not as easy to do in practice. You had a plan, it didn't work out. It's sort of discouraging and you want to give up. But how can you see some positives in that and actually, as they say in the startup world, pivot or change and actually pursue that as an opportunity? Something useful to be able to instruct students with, and also for the college as the college begins to embark on entrepreneurial initiatives and supporting entrepreneurs. And then the last one is really this worldview that we need to have ourselves as colleges and we need to inculcate in our students, which is that we have a part in creating the world and the community around us. So we are the change that we want to see. It's not like there's this world out there and it's waiting to be discovered. We actually can have a handle in creating that. So those are some of the broader things that we have discovered over time, and you'll hear in the comments some of these things reflected. And so if you can, just try this lens on as we go through this workshop. And like I said, we have a lot more resources that we can share with you after and things on our website with that. So I'm going to just kind of get it over into the TIMS for a minute. But one thing I just wanted to close on is that in the educational environment, sometimes it's difficult to act like an entrepreneur because if things don't work out as expected, there's the perception that you failed and there's difficulty in restarting. And so one of the questions I just want to leave you with is, do you work in an environment that provides some space to try things out and to be innovative and maybe just fail small and to learn from that? And if you don't, how can you work to change that environment in the sphere of influence that you have? So we hear it from both sides. Presidents, the faculty will say, well, man, if the president was on board, we could do all these things. Presidents actually say the same thing. They say, if we had a champion, so within your own sphere of influence, how could you begin to create a better culture that would allow for some of these things to try? So those are the overview comments. I'm just going to leave you with just to whet the appetite for the day. And then I'm going to kick it over to the Tims. And I'm going to start with you, Tim Putnam. And I'm just going to ask you, how has NIACCE in your work, have you been able to make an impact at the local level through entrepreneurship?
Okay. That is a big question. When we started our center in '97, we had very humble beginnings. We had very humble beginnings. We offer basically a 2 credit hour classes. We were integrated with our SBDC. Our SBDC preceded us, and we had a summer camp for high school students. So center started in '97. I joined in 2000. That was basically where we started. Again, very, very humble beginnings. And then we quickly realized if we really want to make an impact in North Iowa, we're a half hour from the Minnesota border, 2 hours from our state capital in Des Moines. We really need to change the way we did things and how we delivered to our customers. Again, we're community colleges, we're open access. We don't turn anybody away. Our SBDC are free services. So again, we deal with the smallest of small businesses, but we also, in our region, we have people that have some growth ideas, some growth capacity, and again, they need some access to capital. So over time, you really transformed our center into kind of this regression pipeline. And again, we're involved in a lot of different areas. We do have a small staff. We have 5 people on our staff. We have 2 admin assistants, and then 3 directors that work in our center. So again, we look at this. One is, first of all, education. We look at education as being culture transformation. We're involved from the 5th grade all the way up through high school. We're doing some after-school junior high programs right now. What we're trying to do with this is really teach the kids that they have another career option. They can be job creators or they can be job takers. Neither one's better than the other, but they have a career option. They can think about that. So we're working with some junior high kids right now. Again, we get involved in the 5th grade. Community colleges, I'm sure your schools are the same. 70% of our community college students are first generation students. So when we bring the kids, the 5th graders on our campus, they're starting to realize what a community college really is. They don't always understand what a community college is. They know K through 12 system, but what's the school that sits out for us literally in the middle of a cornfield? What is this school on top of the hill? They may come out there for performing arts or something. So that really starts putting the pieces together to them. And then as we offer some courses along the way, they start really realizing, hey, I can do something. And we've changed our model for our high schools or for our K-12 system to, dream something big. Is the world, the global economy is your canvas. To really, what can you do tomorrow? Dog walking, mowing grass. What can you do to acquire a customer, sell your services, and get some money for your services? So again, that's our K through 12, and that's the beginning of our pipeline. If you look at the state systems, what our state is trying to do for economic development, they want everybody in the sustainable and growth area. But how do we move people along the pipeline? And that's what we've created with our system is a way to move people. One, we can bring somebody in at any stage along the way and really help them navigate these barriers that they're trying to overcome. So again, we have the business plan classes. We have a program we created called Launch and Grow. We used to be a fast track deliverer and kind of moved to our own curriculum. Our SBDC is our front door. They're the ones that see everything. They kind of, I don't know if you like the word or not, but triage the people who are coming in so they can come to, if Ted can take care of their needs, he takes care of about 60, 70%. But we also team together and work with those. Then we move along, access to capital. Very early in the stage, we realized that, some of our higher profile individuals starting small businesses weren't coming to us. We asked them why, and says, we have no money. I need money. I've got an MBA. I've started a business. Why am I going to come to you? So we started a community seed fund. We've raised 2 seed funds, just under $5 million that we administer locally, but we invested on a statewide basis. It's a very hard business to do. But we also created the other end of that spectrum in a micro enterprise for those individuals that are not bankable, that cannot get bank financing. So up to $2,500. And somebody says, well, that's not a lot of money. Don't tell them $2,500 is not a lot of money. So we have a lot of great successes with that. And we also had some really big failures with that as well. So we've got a lot of lessons to learn on that. And then we as our center, we're the technical assistants trying to figure out the state programs. They're always changing, which each new governor and the people they bring in, they want to change the systems. So we have to be the technical experts to help them navigate through this system. So again, if we look at the Papa John Centers, real briefly on that, there's 5 Papa John Centers in the state. John Papa John is a venture capitalist, started in 1969. Has been very successful. He's given over $30 million to the 5 centers in the state. So when we start working with our university Papa John Centers, they're working on commercialization, tech transfer, and all these really high-end deals. And we're like, wow, that's pretty neat stuff. We're not research institutions, but our intellectual property lies within the citizens that live in our community. So how do we work with them, and how do we help them navigate these barriers? And again, we can pull in the universities. We've got great partnerships with them if they have some expertise. So recently, and I'll move on from this slide, our state SBDC system did a return on investment study, and you, SBDC, probably do that as well. I think the average, I won't get these numbers exactly right, but the state average is $2.40 return on investment. Our center is at $4.50. The university centers are less than the state average, because many of those businesses take a long time. The high tech, the biocenter, they take a long time, and many times those never turn to businesses. We're working with people every day that are turning their ideas into businesses, and they're simple businesses, but again, some I think that grows our community, is very important to our community. So again, K through 12 system, I mentioned this. We have our credit programs, really focused on forming the present and giving the kids new ideas, involved in a lot of networking events. Entrepreneurs want to network, and later on today I'll talk about some of those efforts. We're teaming up with Technology Association of Iowa doing tech brews. We'll talk a little bit about that. One of my favorite meetings to go to. So, and then current partnerships. Heather's going to get some questions. I'll talk about our Iowa State CIRRUS program, the efforts we're doing with that, with rapid prototyping. Lean Launchpad, my counterpart is at University of Iowa, being taught how to deliver Lean Launchpad in association with the University of Michigan. They're kind of our mentors on this. So we look to partner with anybody and everybody. The thing that we found, and for the community colleges, we become the conveners. We can pull, the university is very competitive. We're the community colleges. They want our students. So we can convene, we can bring them together, and we do that in statewide business plan competitions. My director, Jamie, is actually the head of the state angel and seed investing forums that we run. So again, we're kind of the non-threatening partner out there. But we've made a name for ourselves throughout the state. One, because of what John Papa John has done in our affiliation, but also the passion we have for what we're doing. So partnerships is absolutely wonderful. And again, we started our center as one of our mistakes. We want to be the sole provider of entrepreneurship support services. Boy, did we fail on that one. In fact, can you say tar and feathered? It was pretty bad in a few situations with our economic developers. They're like, what do you mean you want to take in all the leads and then tell us who we can recruit to come in our area? And that did not go over well at all. So we've had a lot of mistakes along the way. At the end of the day, we have metrics that we serve. And John, again, he invests money. So he's a venture capitalist, so he's very metric driven. So how many new businesses did we start? How many employees or how many jobs did that create? And how many people are we touching? And we actually have had a pretty good, since 07, 08 with the economy, we've been kind of on a backward or upward trend until this past year. And again, our region actually is at near full employment. So again, community college, we're very counter-cyclical. So we're working more with existing businesses and not so much with new startups right now. So, and with that, that's my little overview. So I'm going to turn it over to Tim. The other Tim.
Yeah, before you start, Tim, I was just going to pull out a few things that you said, Tim Putnam, kind of bringing it back to the original. So you can see some of the work there of creating good partnerships in the community. So your external team and your internal team, also starting with what you know. So in your own community for your college, start with like what are the assets of your particular college, but you're also doing that for the students. So you said start small, like the dog walking, whatever. So that's all in line with that entrepreneurial method. So I think the more we as a group and as a network of community colleges, and as we have this conversation, to begin to have that shared language so that we can take it out of the abstract and more concretely say, yes, this is actually where we are on this, and this is what we're doing. And then we're able to translate that over and share that with other colleges. So as a national organization, what we try to do is we say, hey, Rio Salado, did you know that this school over here is actually doing what you're trying to do, and this is how they did it. So by trying to share that common language is going to be really important going forward. So I'll kick it over to you, Tim Matan. So I know you're in California right now, the SBDC large urban area, but you were in rural Nebraska. And if I understand Arizona correctly, Maricopa and Pima are the sort of the more urban, correct? And everything else really is rural. So the rural conversation, I think, is going to play well here.
People don't think that I came from rural because I was from Lincoln, Nebraska. and Lincoln's the state capital, but we served a 15-county area, and Lincoln was the only component that was not rural. We had 2 campuses that were very rural, and they had agriculture programs, cattle, all that other stuff. So I went to Southeast Community College. I started there and grew up and ended up working there again. So that was kind of cool. The entrepreneurship program at Southeast Community College started with me. I was at a staff meeting, and the dean asked if somebody wanted to do some research on entrepreneurship, and I raised my hand. Sure, I had only been there a year, and I looked around, and I was the only one that raised my hand. So they just gave it to me because they had no choice. And I think may have regretted that later in life, but that's all right. Anyway, because I was a marketing instructor, we decided that education was the way to go in order to start the whole education ball rolling. And for the longest time, the entrepreneurship program was my cubicle. In fact, so much when we started the Entrepreneurship Center, they had to roll my phone number over into the new building because it was listed as the Entrepreneurship Program phone number. And so it became kind of a big deal that it was, that phone number stayed with me. For the very first thing that I did is I attended the NACCE conference in Massachusetts to see what people were doing. I'm not from education. I came from blue collar world. I was in the airline industry before I got into it, so I didn't know any better about education. I didn't know the things I couldn't ask. I didn't know the things that I couldn't do until I would get called into the president's office and say, you can't do that. So I didn't know. I got to the point, it's like, well, who'd I piss off now? Because that's just how it went. But I was very passionate about what we were doing. But like I said, we wanted to start in education. And so we came up with an introduction to entrepreneurship class. And it just showed up in the college catalog. There was no marketing. There was nothing that went with it. We ended up with a full class. The first 2, we were on a quarter system. The first 2 quarters it ran, it was full because the students wanted it. And it wasn't business students. We had students from all over the campus in this introduction to entrepreneurship class. And like I said, no marketing, no nothing. And actually, that's been the most popular class that we ran since the time that I wrote it way back when. We ended up with an associate's degree through our business administration program with a focus in entrepreneurship. It has a 6-course entrepreneurial focus. And then what we did is we cherry-picked the business program to figure out which classes were going to work the best for a beginning entrepreneur. Now, we altered that over the years, but the core stayed pretty much the same. And because we had the 6 core business classes in entrepreneurship, we found that there were students that only wanted to take those classes. So we turned it into a certificate as well that could actually be added on to every single program at Southeast Community College. So the majority of our students were welders, auto, ag, early childhood. And early childhood was the surprise for me. But it's like, think about it, they're going to run daycares. And there wasn't a single business program in the entire early childhood development program, not one. So we tried to expand across the campus. Then what we decided to do was we wanted to enhance the experience because we knew that the students wanted the education, but what could we do for the community college? My thought was always, it's like we're Southeast Community. Oh, I keep pushing buttons, darn it. It's Southeast Community College. So community should be in the middle of everything that we do, right? So we wanted to be able to get back to the community. And actually, one of the first things that we had to do is when we went to rural Nebraska, we had to take the word entrepreneur out of everything that we did, by the way. If we ran an entrepreneur workshop, nobody showed up. Because do you know who the biggest entrepreneur is in our state? Warren Buffett. Everybody thought you had to be him in order to attend. So nobody came. I ran the exact same workshop as a small business workshop. I was full. the terminology is different. So anyway, what we did is, you'll notice up there on the slide it says NBDC. We're the very first, one of the very first SBDCs in the country, and so we got to keep the Nebraska Business Development Center, and so it's the SBDC network, but it's just NBDC. It was housed in the universities, and we worked with them. We partnered with them. One of the very last things I did before I left was pulled it from the university and put it into the community college. So I was very happy. SCORE, Students in Free Enterprise, which has changed. What's it called now? NACCE. So we had a bunch of different partners that we worked with, and we found that the business community wanted to talk about business. They wanted to come in. The NBDC was there, but they were more business plan oriented. We just wanted somebody to talk. So we started an entrepreneurship center where we could come in and give free coaching. The exact same thing an SBDC does. However, we don't have the metrics. Sound familiar? So what are your metrics in your SBDC system, people? That's what you're focused on. We didn't have that focus. We didn't care. All we wanted to do was talk to people. That's what we were funded to do. And so we did. But we also knew what the metrics were at the SBDC. So we would focus the people down there that needed to go. There were a lot of tire kickers that wanted to come in and just say, hey, I have this idea. What do I need to do? So we took on that 1 hour, and we liked doing it. We ended up actually starting an incubator because of that. We have a business incubator. So everybody know whose Gallup organization is? Big Gallup. Okay. Their world headquarters was in Lincoln, Nebraska. Then they moved to Omaha. They emptied a building, and our school bought it. And one entire building was turned into the Entrepreneurship Center, and we've made third floor an incubator. We also had a high school that was dedicated to entrepreneurship, and it was run through the Lincoln Public Schools. It was the Entrepreneurship Focus Program. We had that there, and then we had our service organizations on the 5th floor. So if you want to know how I ran that thing on $120,000 a year, I'll tell you. That conversation over dinner, it was exciting, but we had anchor tenants, and that was the school and the service organizations, and then the incubators were charged minimal fees. But we wanted to make sure that we had all these connections available to everybody, so that they actually had that we weren't just the experts, that we were actually farming them out to our community experts as well. And then we did this through our rural communities. We actually worked with, that's our business incubator. So we had professional services, a conference room, business coaching, attractive rental rates, 3 years, all that. But one of the things that we have is a big state. It takes 8 hours to get across the state of Nebraska. We have 95 counties, 90 of which are considered rural. So every other community college except for Metro was a rural community college, and they were needing help. So we had written the associate degree program, and so we shared it with our other community colleges. And you'll notice Scottsbluff, which is way on the western side. And like I said, it would take 8 hours to get to Scottsbluff, and we would hold meetings out there. But that's the middle of ranch country. And there were a lot of farmers out there, but there were a lot of people out there who wanted to be entrepreneurs that were not in ranching. So we wanted to work with them, and we found out our curriculum was one of the best ways to go. So we helped design something called NetForce, which was the Nebraska Entrepreneurship Task Force. And NetForce was all of the community college, the Department of Ed, several other service organizations, and some of the four-year institutions. We would get together 3 times a year to talk about entrepreneurship. We redeveloped that curriculum that I had started back at Southeast Community College to make sure it was something that could be used in every single community college across the state. We did that and got it adopted in 1 year. 1 year. You can tell we didn't have educators sitting at the table. So we worked very hard to make sure that happened. We had the VP of instruction from my college who backed it, pushed it through, and got it into the entire community college system. So the rule was, if you were going to adopt this curriculum, if you were a community college, you had to adopt the curriculum, and you had to at least adopt the Introduction to Entrepreneurship course. That was the one. Most of the colleges adopted all 6 of the classes and turned it into some form of degree or certificate program. So we had we wanted to make sure that everybody was singing the same song across the state. Everybody was talking exactly the same language, and we were teaching the same thing. Because if we could do that, then we could actually get those entrepreneurs that wanted to go from high school to community college to the university. They would have the exact same education, and the university had no choice but to adopt our Introduction to Entrepreneurship class and make it part or a transferable course. So we had a 2 + 2 + 2. We had most every single high school system adopted the introduction and taught it as a joint class. So we did that in 6 years. So if you go to Nebraska, and the website changed, I just found it. It's the nebraskaentrepreneurship.com. All of the curriculum is up there. It's free. You can have it if you would like it. So there's a marketing for the entrepreneur, feasibility study course. There's business plan, legal issues, and a financial topics. So, like I said, Nebraska is a big state, and we wanted to make sure that everybody was educated, and we even got entrepreneurship put into the Department of Ed's little circle thingy that they have. Does everybody have that? The tracks, the focuses that the high school students, they wouldn't put entrepreneurship in it, and we pushed and pushed and pushed, and we finally got it so that it circles the entire track so that every component has entrepreneurship attached to it. So that was a difficult battle. So I ran NetForce for most of its existence, and now it's being run by my successor, the interim director at the Entrepreneurship Center. So Brooke Robbins is running it right now. So we have a huge influence in what happens across the state of Nebraska, and we're very proud of that.
Well, thank you, Tim. And we're just about at time, so I'm actually not going to ask you guys some questions.
No.
So sad. But I just wanted to comment back on something that Dr. Bustamante mentioned, which is the Vin Toolkit, because as you were talking, kind of brought that back. So what that was is it's the virtual incubation network, and it was a group convened, as Dr. Bustamante said, under the Charles Stewart Mott Foundation through AACC, and then we also worked closely, and we traveled around the country to a variety of the colleges. And the idea behind it was, if you're a community college and you want to offer services in entrepreneurship, how would you go about doing that? And if you don't have a physical incubator, is there a way that you might be able to provide those same resources without having that physical location? So that was really the purpose of the project. And the toolkit that you have there itemizes out the findings. So all these things that we're sharing with you, like the President's Pledge, that toolkit, all of these are, equipment that you can use for a variety of things. And then, of course, sharing information live. But one of the things that we found in that process is that for the rural schools, the college took on more of that central role because there wasn't a lot of other things in that community. For the urban areas, there was many services available, very noisy environment, and you had to figure out where you could connect in and what role that you would play. So part of it is just understanding and identifying the lay of the land, but you'll see in there everything from what the leadership might need to know at a college, the staff level, ways to get funded, all sorts of things. So that's just to give a little bit more context to what that toolkit is. And then I guess I'd just like to close because you were also mentioning some of the same things that we started with, which is that frame. So you worked with the external partners. You also wanted to leverage what was already in the community. So as a state and as these, you all have systems within the state already, how do you leverage and maybe this college takes this piece, this college takes that piece, and begin to share? I know that's sometimes difficult in certain environments, but how can we, with the resources that we have, begin to pool that and to be able to share that, just like you did in the state, because then it does become unified, and you're able to maybe bring resources together that wouldn't have happened separately. You would have individually been creating all these things, which wouldn't really have been necessary. So lots of things to learn. I know there's going to be opportunities. Otis is coming up. We'll be asking you further questions. We'll also hear from Jasper
We
Welch.
have 10 more minutes.
What's that?
Chris just granted us 10 more minutes.
We do? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I thought we had to leave at
9:45.
All right. I've been
Oh, you
told
get
that-
more of us.
All right. So this is what I'm going to
Sorry.
do then. I'm basically just going to ask them some questions in line with that framework that we shared with you, so we can bring that home a little bit more. So thank you, Chris. So let me just ask, and whoever wants to take this can take this. So talking about the internal and the external teams. So can you talk about how creating the internal and external teams dedicated to entrepreneurship were formed, and how that enhanced what you were trying to do at the college?
I think one of our best external teams that we have, again, we look at our center as a community outreach economic development model for entrepreneurship. And that's with our economic development professionals through our area. And are there any EDC folks in here, any economic development professionals? For us, they play a key role in our connecting to the communities. That they really have their finger on the pulse of what's going on. And again, they can be strange cats too. I mean, they're very territorial. We started going out and just seeing clients in their area, and they're like, "What are you doing in my town? Why are you talking to these folks without engaging us?" So over the years, they become absolute strategic partners with us. They're technical experts on all the state funding pieces. So when we bring together a bigger deal, they can really leverage those assets. We're working with a regional railroad that want to expand from Manly over to Winnebago. The trailers, Forest City, the motor homes, very key asset to get their trailers on the line, and again reducing their cost of transportation. So that is a very involved process. So we are heavily involved in that on the entrepreneurial side. Just from a business planning, putting together the grant for that. And then they were technical experts in the state. So again, and there's many times when, there may be a business that burns down, and all of a sudden we need to have a rapid response team. We work very closely with them to go in and work with that business owner. Or 2 years ago, we had Fleet Guard, which was being shut down, 400 employees in Lake Mills, a community of about 1,200 people, 400 jobs. That's a lot, and people obviously travel arranged. So we went in and did some rapid response, working with those employees, and probably had about a half dozen businesses actually started from that. But again, we still talk to all the employees and make sure they understood that. So for us, our best economic external team has been our economic developers. We have office hours in their community. When we talk about the virtual incubation, that's not always technology driven. So for us, I'd say we're fairly low tech. And as Tim mentioned earlier, we go out and talk to people. We have office hours in their community, work with the chambers and the EDCs. Again, they help set the hours up. And then again, we work back with them to let them know where that business is at, what their opportunities are, kind of what the next steps are, so that all the parties are involved are working with that business. Again, many times we have some success stories, and other times we don't. It's just, failure is part of this equation.
One of our best internal assets, this is one of the things that I got in trouble for in the beginning, is Presidents Lighten Up. I invited all the program chairs to the Entrepreneurship Center for breakfast so they could see the Entrepreneurship Center and we could talk about the education that we had and the services that were available. I got in trouble because you're not supposed to just hold breakfast for faculty, apparently. So anyway, through that meeting, I had the program chair from the Ag Department, Food Service, Early Childhood, Welding, and Automotive come to me and say, hey, we can't add another class to our curriculum. How do we make this work for our students? And that's actually how we got the certificate. available that they could tack on, but they didn't know how to advise. Well, I was full-time faculty, and then I was able to bring on a faculty advisor who actually, she was a business administration instructor, but had her housed out of the Entrepreneurship Center so that she could actually advise students no matter what program they were in. So we actually worked very specifically with the program chairs. I even had a speech instructor that wanted me to come talk to her class every quarter. So because she believed that, there was somebody sitting in that class. So we offered up our services to be a substitute for them for a day because we were faculty. And we could go in and give an hour-long or hour-and-a-half presentation and take up an entire class period for them and talk about entrepreneurship and talk about how it would actually help them. Then we discovered that there were faculty who wanted to be part of that discussion as well. So we created workshops for faculty professional development, and we got approved through our professional development program. And it's based off of the book of Accidental Entrepreneur. We called it Eventually Everyone Becomes an Entrepreneur because they do have the opportunity, and it's a lot of fun. So I would make them do math. It was great. So that's how we would engage. I would actually go to the program chairs and see who would be involved. We ended up with an early childhood entrepreneurship focused degree through the whole thing. So everybody else kept it as a certificate, but at least we were getting those students who really wanted to be in our program and go on to be entrepreneur.
Excellent. And that's going to tie to my next question, which is engaging entrepreneurs. And I was going to share one thing because some of this will start to leak into other areas. So we know a lot of the colleges don't do a great job at tracking their alumni. So this might be an opportunity for you to connect with your development office and to really work hand in hand to track your alumni, because a lot of your alumni have started businesses and might be right in your community, and you're passing them by every day and don't even recognize that. So one college in Wisconsin, actually, their nursing program also, they couldn't fit any more classwork, and they thought, boy, we want to give opportunities to these students because they all just watched whatever the popular television show used to be, ER, but whatever, and they all think nursing and I'm going to work in the ER. Like that's what gets people, just like CSI and things like that, gets people interested in certain things. So how do we bring people to the conclusion that they could actually start their own businesses in even nursing programs? So how they did is they actually tapped the alumni from their college who had gotten nursing degrees and had their own businesses in their community. So like one of them, they had set up a visiting nurses company and had many employees in their community. Other was like they had a holistic healing center. So all these different varieties of what you could do with this degree. And they, instead of doing a certificate, what they did is they did a required symposium. So they kind of killed two birds with one stone. They were able to bring in those alumni entrepreneurs, have them on a panel, get them engaged, and then also provide the students, these real life people in their community that had gone through a similar program, and allowed them to understand, oh, look, I could do these things, and even start to begin maybe some internships with those companies. So it's part of a whole bigger picture than just, how do I get students to start their own companies? It's really engaging the community. So on that point, which is one of the commitments in engaging entrepreneurs, how have you been able to engage entrepreneurs in the activities you're doing, and what does that look like?
We had an advisory board, and it was made up of 50% entrepreneurs, 50% resource people. And we would bring entrepreneurs in twice a year to ask them how we should run our program better. And since they had a better understanding of what we did, they could market us a little bit better, which was nice. But from that, we also found that a lot of them wanted to give their services to small businesses as well. So we created something called Meet the Experts. And we did something called Broadcast Your Business. It was a business pitch program. And actually, those people ended up on TV because we engaged our local television company. But our Meet the Experts happened 3 or 4 times out the year, and that we would bring, it was kind of like a round table. We had lawyers and we had accountants, and people could come in and talk to them for free. And then we would open up very specifically for students. We had one event every year that was very specifically just for students who wanted that kind of advice. So that was one of our most successful ways of gauging the external community.
Ours was quite a bit different. One, I will say that your advisory board is absolutely essential to running a successful entrepreneurship center. So we make sure you have a good combination of entrepreneurs, business professionals, really on that board to really drive that. What we did is we actually, I alluded to it earlier, creating our community seed fund. We asked them for money. So we created our first seed fund that we created. We raised $1.7 million. That was roughly about 70 individuals throughout our North Iowa region. The angel funds, angel investing always has happened, but it's not a very simplistic system to navigate. If you're not part of that group or know those individuals, you have no understanding how to access them. So we kind of actually create a formal LLC. We raise the money in the center, and it's managed by the partners, the owners of the LLC. So now we have, and then we raised our second venture capital fund. We did that in 2007. We raised $2.4 million for that. So now what we have, and about half of those individuals from the first fund came over to the second fund. So now what we have is and we have in-depth knowledge and relationship with all these entrepreneurs. So now we bring them in to help on high-profile deals that are going on in our community. So we know who the experts are, what they do. So whenever we have that little higher-end business that needs that extra help on distribution systems or finance, something like that, we'll bring these individuals in. That's been a good program. We like to get to the point of setting up a pure mentor system, which that'd be the next step. Very hard in our rural region because we don't have enough deals of that level to really engage them. If you bring together and set up a formal mentor system, if you don't have enough work for them to do, they're going to lose interest very fast. So I think, in the Phoenix greater area, probably be a great system to do. You probably have a lot of deal flow. And that's really what it comes down to, having quality deal flow for them to work on. So our angel fund has really created friends, not only with our entrepreneurship center, but also with the college too. The director, Jamie Zaney, is my boss. He's a vice president. He also heads up institutional advancement, so he carries two roles. So again, it's very careful. You can't just go out and start asking for money. As if I ask for money and then Tim comes along and asks for money, well, I just gave him, $100,000 for this. So you're not going to get this money for your bioscience center. Then that's definitely when the presidents don't get happy, nor do the institutional advancement. So it has to be a very collaborated effort to do that. But our Angel Seed Fund has been very good. It's the largest seed fund in the state, and the only community-based seed fund that actually has been funded twice. So, but I will say too, that is very hard work. We've had a lot more failures than we have had successes. So we have a couple, again, that's all about exit strategy. So we have a couple that are approaching that. So hopefully we'll have some nice liquidity events the next year to 2 years and get those investors their money back. And then we could possibly look for a third seed fund. So.
Okay, excellent. So now I know we are just about at time. But I just wanted to also close on that, because this is a really important part of the conversation, is that it really is a holistic approach. And that's what we're really trying to get at here in this conversation is starting here, starting small, whether it's in an entrepreneurship class, it will begin to grow, because as you engage entrepreneurs in the community, then you're going to want to connect with that development office, and how do you carry those conversations forward? And we have seen time and time again at many community colleges, entrepreneurs stepping forward, like you had at your school. They take the first step in saying, hey, I've been successful in my life. I've been an entrepreneur. The community college, you serve the community. I'd like to give back. How can I do that? So being prepared for those conversations, whether they come to you, which would be ideal, or you start to cultivate that and you begin to have those conversations, all this will come in. And so it could be in the form of funds. It could be in the form of mentoring, teaching, being guest speakers, et cetera, and goes on. So we'll close with that, but the idea here that we hope you have the takeaway is knowing what you have already at hand. Look at the resources that you have. What can you make of that? What can you start with? What can you continue to do more of? What partners do you not currently have, both inside the college that you need to get friendly with and develop a relationship and a communication strategy with them? Who in the outside can you do that with as well? And then throughout the day, just have that percolate. And as you come up with ideas, I know we're going to be closing, I think, with a partner mapping session later in the day. So anyways, welcome. Thank you so much for listening. And we look forward to the rest of the presentations.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Heather, Tim, and Tim. We appreciate it. Clicker. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Well, great. Well, let's take a 15-minute break, and if you go out these doors, there's some fruit bars over there, there's coffee back there, bio breaks are straight out these doors as well. So 15 minutes, we'll meet back at 10 o'clock.